The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Mondays here. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark in today. Hope you're all right. Good weekend. Plenty of NFL action to hit on. Big recruiting weekend for the Big Red. We'll get to a new hire reported by On3 for Nebraska football as part of their administrative staff. We'll tell you about, and we'll get locked in with the Blackshirt Hour in Hour 2. Open phones and Hour 1 wide open for you at 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com or just jump in the stream and check in that way with the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Give us a like as well. And tell your friends. Also, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Can follow that and watch the show that way. KFOR Twitter and KFOR Facebook. Find Elijah on Twitter at Herbalessence. Connor Clark's Twitter /X is still 17 caricatures long at C_Clark_27. Find me, Chris Schmidt, at Schmidt_radio. How we doing? Did we make money at the book this weekend? I know you called a ball game, Nebraska Northwestern on KRNU. Big Red got a win. We'll talk tournament. Hold on. We'll talk path to the tournament for Nebraska basketball as well as we get into that big one against Ohio State. Elijah, you tipped one back last night. I was jealous. I was going to catch up with you for a beer, but I just kept playing the old man card, man, and I just hung out at home after a little exercise. That was it. I did nothing. I did not go out despite the temperatures being nice. Charlie McBride's with us in an hour as well, Mr. Blackshirt.
Yeah, we'll get to roll call here in just a second as well. But yeah, you missed out. You missed out. Me and Connor went to a local establishment, tipped back a couple Cornhead lagers. Well, wasn't a bad night.
It was good.
And you also got a dirty Arnold Palmer. John Daly. John Daly.
Guys, yeah, I mean, it takes on new meaning when you add vodka.
I mean, it does, but it was good.
How many?
Just one.
Really?
It was Sunday. I had class today.
That's fine. Sometimes we'll sneak off closer to home and have 5 or 6 old John Daly's.
Well,
if they're on special where I go. But yeah, the sweet tea and lemonade is fantastic. It's even better with Uncle Andy's favorite, McCormick's. You're like, you're going to start the car with that? Let's get you to roll call as if you're one of the first 5 in, well, let's just not lie, first 10 in, we give you a shout out. But roll call / our starting 5 in the stream.
Competitive top 5 today.
It is. Anthony checks in, and he got in at 3:25, nudging out Black Hills Brennan by just a minute at 3:26. Our dear friend Brian Snitley in 3rd. NU Grandpa says he's here for the worms. In at 3. Jeff checks in at 4. Andrew makes a way in at 5. Patrick sneaks in at 6. And then Herdizzle, along with Dion, gets in there. So shout out to all of you. Brandon also in. And we'll get to your comments here. So let me ask this, and we'll get to it here in a little bit. But the topic of tortured fan base, right? And the Bills are absolutely that with the way the kick went. And we'll hear Jim Nance's call shortly. But the Bills are there. Do you consider Nebraska basketball? Do you consider Nebraska football? And I defer to you two because I know the last decade for football hasn't been great. I know the one-score losses are heart-wrenching, and that's been multiplied by tenfold compared to the last second occasional Oklahoma bone crusher, right? When I was growing up or when Sooner Magic was alive and well in the 70s. You hear ghost stories about. But you fast forward to now, and you have one-score losses to the Marylands of the world that are no disrespect to Maryland, but they're 8-5 football teams, right? They're not a team competing or on the doorstep of a national championship like those Oklahoma teams were in the 80s and in the 70s. And then, Nebraska's football program, yes, you've been tortured as a fan with how losses have gone, but I think the upswing will be real nice with Coach Rule moving forward. Basketball, brother, they find new ways, and it even got scarier on Saturday where you're up and you just can't get past that 11-point lead. There's no put Northwestern down like you did to Purdue, like you did to Indiana.
Well, I'd say currently across the landscape of college sports, there is no more tortured fan base than Nebraska in the college landscape. Look at this comment from Anonymous. This came in at 3:54.
Okay.
And it's evidence of whatever you want to call it. I usually call it the Husker PTSD. If you want to call it the tortured nature of the Husker fan base, that works too. Anonymous chimes in on the stream and says, Raiola threw a pick on Friday, so I immediately flew to Vegas and put down 4-8 on next year's record.
But listen,
is that not the definition of a tortured fan base? You see a pick in an all-star game and you say, worst case scenario's coming.
And you overreact.
It's like the Bills fans that see the field goal formation in a 3-point game and say, well, he's going to miss it. Wide right. They're right, but
it happened, and it was horrible for Bills fans.
Or look at Husker basketball. What happens whenever Nebraska drops a road game to Iowa and then drops a road game to Rutgers? The sky is falling. The wheels have fallen off. It's worst-case scenario for Juwan Gary. This team's going to miss the tournament. That is the definition of Husker PTSD in a tortured fan base, expecting the wheels to fall off whenever you encounter a slight hiccup.
You've just seen it happen.
If Kansas were to lose 2 straight road games in Big 12 play, Kansas fans would be disappointed, but they would look at that and say, this is a hiccup in the road. Bill Self will get him right. This is too talented of a basketball team for these struggles to continue.
Their disappointment would go from Final Four or Elite Eight to, man, we might not get to the Sweet 16 this year.
Well,
it's all in perspective.
Can I say this about the whole basketball thing? At least, like, I'm going from when I started school here, so the 2020-2021 season. I wouldn't say if you're a basketball fan in that span that you're a tortured fan base, because the first 3 years of Fred, they're just bad. I mean, there was
no
bad.
hope.
Yeah, they were just bad. They weren't winning games. They weren't even close with the good teams. You could say there were a couple instances last year where you could make the argument, and then you get destroyed at Iowa. You go to Rutgers, was a heartbreaker there. Juwan Gary gets injured, but on the bright side, I mean, he's not done. I mean, he's a game-time decision tomorrow, and you beat I think, a pretty good Northwestern team. Football, I think the obvious answer is absolutely, because, again, if we're going off of, at least for me, when I got here in 2020, they were 15-29. They lost 21 of those games by a score or less. Think about that. 21 of those 29 losses in a span of 4 years have been by one score. That is the most tortured fan base in college football, and it's not a debate, in my opinion.
No, there's different levels of torture, though, right? You're losing by a score or less, and you're not going to postseason. Mm-hmm. You're not even in contention for anything in November. Then we go to like the Bills, where can they break through and get to a Super Bowl in the Mahomes era? Or are they just...
This fan base is literally shoveling out their stadium for them to lose.
Yeah, I mean, they're jumping into holes, man, without Tennessee whiskey.
Well, let's be clear. If Nebraska makes an NCAA tournament game, and it was promised, if you jump in this hole, one person is sacrificed to South Stadium, Nebraska will win an NCAA tournament game.
It's kind of like blowing up the south end zone, right?
Fans would be lining up to jump in that pit.
Well, they'd be lining up to suggest a couple people to throw in that
Look
pit.
at Anonymous. Nebraska not having an NCAA tournament win. Anonymous right now just seems absolutely tortured right now, so you might be the definition of a tortured Husker fan. Thanks for chiming in, Anonymous. We do appreciate you. Saying not having an NCAA tournament win was already a big deal in 1991, 33 years ago. Which
right.
He's got a point.
And now you're it.
You're the only team, not across the Power 5, across the Power 6 when you look at basketball. Throw the Big East in there. The only team to never win a tournament game.
No, you're it, and you're the only team to not get to a bowl game the last 5 years.
You're tortured.
So you are tortured, and you're not even tortured from not winning that championship. You're not even getting to play with the rest of the kids to be in it. We'll take your calls here. 489-1240. Are we going to the lines?
Yes, we have Jonathan from Omaha on the line.
All right, we got to go top shelf here on that. Okay. Jonathan, thanks for calling, bud. Go for it.
Hey, so kind of two things, right? As far as us being like a tortured fan base, I would say as far as basketball, I can't say that we're tortured because like we haven't seen the peak of the mountain like we have in football. Like I'm a casual basketball fan, and honestly, us beating Purdue this year to me was like the peak of the mountain. That's what it felt like personally. Even if we don't make the tournament, hey, at least we'll be number one, I guess. And at number two, as far as like maybe a tortured fan base, they kind of talked about this on ESPN radio earlier about the Bills fans being tortured. Don't get me wrong, and how they're taking it personally, but like. I don't know how personally you can take it from a professional team aspect. At least from a college aspect, you know, there's a lot of states that don't have professional sports, so it's more personal. There's people that have gone to the university. So it's just more intimate to me with, like, college fan bases being tortured, I guess. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Jonathan, appreciate you. Thanks for the phone call. No, that's fair, and, I mean, it hits close to home. In a pro market and a pro team, you've got a lot of diehards. I mean, how many times did they show the guy that's in his late 80s that was alive and went to the last Detroit championship in 57?
Well, I was thinking, how many poor Bills fans do you see in the helmet and shoulder pads and jersey and pants in the stands last night? Like, that's a monetary investment to make into a team to never have them win.
Them and the Sabres, right? I mean, those are their two loves up there where there's 50 feet of snow every other week, and
they're shoveling out the stadium for minimum wage.
Yeah, literally.
Come on. They are special. They are incredible. And Chris Kelsey was talking last week with us just about how the Nebraska fan base and the Bills are kindred spirits. And you want to see someone break through there, except in Chiefs country. You still got a dynasty rolling here. Who's with us?
We got Tom on the line.
Tom, thanks for calling. Go for it.
Hey, Schmidt, thanks a lot.
What do you got, bud?
The modern-day tortured fan base for Nebraska has to do with the first half officiating at these home basketball games.
Yeah, PBA, I mean, they either come in or get in line, and the emotion is enhanced.
Saturday was rough.
Yeah, and PBA does a great job of catering to those alcohol needs, and a couple of spots in the rail yard do an amazing job of catering to the alcohol needs, so you get all primed up. But again, we kind of this is an angrier basketball fan base this year for Nebraska than I've ever kind of witnessed and seen, because they want it to happen so bad. And yeah, Husker Hoops totally tortured because they've never had the success, and I think that'll change. I mean, Fred's done a great job, so this isn't piling on him or his kids. This is just, a 30,000-foot view in comparison to Buffalo.
Oh, yeah,
different tiers, though, where Buffalo's in the postseason.
Yeah, right.
Nebraska's trying to get to postseason.
Right. Well, the case in hand in the first half when Bryce Williams just puts his hand on the player from Northwestern's back and draws his third foul, and then did not push him at all whatsoever.
There's a few phantom calls, Tom.
I tell you that I watched this numerous times. Casey's 3 with 32 seconds left. Don't tell the officials, don't tell the officials not to watch this, but I think he took way more than 2 steps before he let that ball go.
Yeah,
he had the ball
a gather plus 2.
It was about 3 or 4, but they deserved this one.
Tom, I like it. We'll see you again. Thanks for the phone call, bud. Appreciate you. Good stuff from Tom. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
I thought the officiating on Saturday was not up to par both ways. Honestly,
it sucked.
There were some things where, like, okay, how is that not a foul on Bright? Like, the Boo Booey charge that wasn't a charge was a little questionable. Obviously, the Bryce Williams call was like, okay, what are we doing here? It just kind of stuff like that. And then it was weird in the second half too, because at one point Northwestern was ahead in the foul category 6-3, and then literally 90 seconds later it was even at 6. So that was something that I thought was quite interesting. I know I was calling the game, so I'm not supposed to officiate the game, but that was something in the back of my mind. I was like, this is a little interesting.
Well, on the other side, can we admit, like, in the Big Ten, the big advantage of the officials that they have is that booing is fun.
Oh, you let and Nebraska's good at it.
Yeah, Nebraska's great at booing. Like sometimes I think the officials get it right, and I'm in the stadium. I'm going to boo along too because booing is fun. Booing is one of the most fun things you can do at a sporting event besides cheer.
I would rather boo the other team, I think, but. Booing the refs.
There's a Chicagoan
warranted.
for you right there.
Yeah, right. You want to talk about tortured fan bases? I'm just kidding.
But you guys are kind of over that now with your Cubs winning in 16.
I'm just talking strictly Bears. But
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
Overall, I would say no.
At least not a White Sox.
But
fan.
I'm saying strictly Bears. White Sox fans are also tortured because of just how poorly
It's
that
been
organization's
19
run.
years.
And they just can't seem to get anything right in the front office. But that can be a conversation for another day. I know many White Sox fans are very upset about a lot of things going on there.
Well, we can dive in and take some more therapy phone calls or emails or in the stream comments. Do you consider yourself a tortured Nebraska fan? You might be a tortured Bills fan right now, and there's enough alcohol and tobacco to get you through today after another wide ride. You can find us on Twitter at H Varsity Radio, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. We'll tell you about Nebraska's recruiting weekend, more thoughts on Husker basketball, and a new name to be Nebraska's GM. We'll tell you that. It's coming up here, a Monday edition. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty
Schmidt's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
and Elijah
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Cotter Clark. Let's get the news out. Nebraska expected to hire TCU GM Anthony Crespino. This reported by Matt Lenitz and on 3 National. So, hey, in the world of college football with NIL, with transfer portal, with roster management that is necessary because you've got NIL and NIL scholarships. You have scholarships. You have recruiting that is 12 months, this job. And reality is there's no sleep till Brooklyn, honestly, for Nebraska or programs trying to make a move or maintain their power, right? So a little bit of a backstory here on Anthony Crespino. He was able to go from SMU to TCU and work with Sonny Dykes at TCU, and now he's making the jump again on 3 reporting this. He was assistant director of football operations at Northwestern for 2016-2017, at Texas State before that. Director of recruiting at TCU under Dennis Franchione at 2012. And if you look at those teams post 2012 at TCU, what a really good run there by Gary Patterson and some guys that went to the NFL. Director of ops at Western Michigan. So he knows Big Ten country, and he spent time down in Texas. So, hey, go for it. And if this guy's been evaluated and Rule wants to have a GM, so to speak, it's kind of what you got to have and need in college football in today's era.
Are we concerned about his jumping of different Christian faiths, though, going from Methodist to Christian? No stops at Notre Dame just yet. I'm kidding.
I don't. That's a discussion we'll have to have later on.
Okay.
Okay. So, but no,
It's
there's
a press
no,
conference question.
Yeah. Elijah Herbel,
Be that guy.
Hurrdat Media. Have you been excommunicated yet? Okay.
What is your take on the Pope?
You got to follow up.
Oh, man. Welcome to Nebraska.
We're talking torture and tortured fan bases.
That's an interesting transition going from the Christian church to torture.
I'm saying we're
Only
talking
weird if you make it weird.
torture. Here's our ranking, all right?
This is going off the rails quickly.
A little bit. You show up and all
sorry,
hell
guys.
freezes over, right? So, Bills and Cleveland. Do you agree or disagree from an NFL standpoint?
It was the Lions up until this year. I guess
Yeah.
I don't think it really changes depending on what happens next year. You got a couple playoff wins. You've relinquished your spot in the mountaintop of tortured fan bases for the Lions this year.
Fair.
I
I
think.
agree. I think
so.
Cleveland and Buffalo, though, are both accurate.
And Cleveland's always botched the quarterback. Okay, so that's the hope that never comes through. Santa doesn't show up again.
Where are the Chargers at in tortured fan bases?
They have talent. They haven't made the right hire.
That's what I'm saying.
And
I don't think currently there's enough Chargers
Herbert's
fans.
only 25 or 26, and then you move. I mean, you move to L.A. where people really don't care about football on Sunday. So I don't know. Chargers, there are Chargers fans that yearn for the bearded era of Dan Fouts and company, but I can't put the Chargers there because they've been all right. I mean, they had Drew Brees and said, I'm not going to pay you.
I mean, they've been stuck in mediocrity, it feels like, for 2 decades.
Sure. But they're closer. They're one season away. Cleveland got a little tease this year with Flacco, and they built a good defense. But Buffalo, though, I mean, let's hear this. This is Jim Nantz. This is Mr. Godfather of play-by-play. This is old Jimbo getting a death warrant signed by Bill's Mafia during the moment last night.
44 yards, Bass. No, he doesn't make it. Wide right. Wow. The two most dreaded words in Buffalo have surfaced again.
That's just so uncalled for.
No,
that is unbelievable.
It was in the moment, and he's right. The most dreaded words in Buffalo.
Well, imagine, Connor,
Laces
if you will.
out.
Imagine
Fickle as Einhorn.
Imagine, if you will, Connor, here that the Bears, every single postseason, their postseason ends in a doink.
Yeah, I know. When he missed the kick last night, I was like, oh my goodness, this is like shades of that game for me at least. I was like, this is horrendous. You give yourself a chance to win. Now I get it. This is year after year after year for Buffalo, and it always seems to come against Kansas City. And yeah, that would be exactly like Jim Nantz saying, oh my goodness, double doink, the two most famous words in Chicago, and then everybody would riot.
But the Norwood reality, though. I mean, did you see the jerseys on Twitter last night where they had Bass's last name all the way to the right side of the back of the jersey, and the last two letters were on the sleeve. They were so wide right, falling off the jersey, because there's Norwood jerseys, people, and you have OJ up there. I mean, he's still your all-time leading rusher. Buffalo is making a case. Chris tweets in, I think you need to include Jets fans into the conversation.
Yeah,
they finally get themselves a Pro Bowl quarterback. Can't even have one last before the first play before going down the whole season. That's fair.
I mean,
the Jets are there.
One of the most famous plays in Jets history is
the butt fumble,
that's pretty tortured.
Well, you have Jeff checking in here. Falcons fan Jeff says, I hate the Chiefs. They hate that the Chiefs won. Andrew's a clear Chiefs fan. Haters going to hate. But
are the Falcons in that conversation at all?
No, they've been to two Super Bowls.
But the way that they lost it.
Oh, to blow a 28-3 lead, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, that is like the epitome of torture, in my opinion. I mean, you're good all year, but then, I mean, you blow the biggest lead in Super Bowl history.
I think Vikings fan has a strong argument.
Yeah. There's a whole docuseries on YouTube right now. Secret Base did a really, really good job with this, if you're a Vikings fan or you want to know a little more about how the Vikings, in terms of win differential, how many more wins than losses that you have, Vikings are number 2 in the NFL and they don't have a Super Bowl, which is a pretty incredible stat.
Bad, yeah.
And they were the squad in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Great quarterback, great defense. And even in the Warren Moon era, when they had Moss and they were throwing punts up to him and Chris Carter, they were great. Robert Smith at running back.
Now, I don't want to be this guy.
You're a Bears fan. Go ahead and unload.
No, I'm not. This is not Bears related. This is everybody in America is not going to like me for saying this, except for the people who root for this team. What about the Cowboys?
Were they tortured?
I mean, they do the same thing every year after being good.
Get back to me after 10 more years of failure. That's when I can ask the question. They're not tortured.
No, they listen. Dallas has gotten what they deserve.
Well, that's what the rest of America thinks.
What
too.
I mean by that is you've got an owner who's brilliant, but kind of getting up there, and he's still the dictator. Okay, so he's got to be talked down from drafting the Johnny Manziels of the world. He's got to show off his brain. Look, I found Dak. Great. And he has drafted pretty well. And he's also whiffed. I mean, it's the crapshoot of the draft. He does not want anyone there to challenge his authority. That's just all there is to it. He wants a kind of a coach that will be a yes man and go from there. Cowboys fans far too arrogant to be tortured.
That's
from
fair.
Herdazzle.
I will totally agree with that.
Uncle Andy's a Cowboys fan. He's not arrogant.
But
you had the heyday of Aikman, Irvin, incredible defense. You had Dion. You had Emmitt Smith. You had Jimmy Johnson. And you punt the guy after winning 2 championships just to rub his face in it. And you bring in Switzer. Switzer wins one. And then since then, it's been Audi 5000. So they've gotten what they've deserved. They had a great thing going. Jimmy'd probably still be coaching.
Well, they had a great thing going. The problem is for me, it was all before me / when I was 2 years old.
For those old fans.
It doesn't apply to me mentally.
Well, let's bring this back to Nebraska here real quick. Is Nebraska at the mountaintop of college football's tortured fan bases? When you look around,
is it the Mount Rushmore?
They got to at least be top 4.
See, you had such a listen, and this is my perspective on it. Again, Nebraska, kind of like Dallas, you did this to yourself. You had a good thing going with a couple of guys that were winning 9 games, and you're a hell of a lot closer to 10, 11, 12. If you're at 9, then hitting reset. Okay, so that's Nebraska's own fault, and it's caught up with him. You had such a 50-year run where you're top 10, top 5, you're winning 10 ball games, you're winning 9 ball games, and
21st century argument, I think, could be made.
I mean, the 90s aren't that long ago to me, or even the Bo years aren't that long. It's 10 years where they were good. They were good football teams. So,
but the problem is the teams that never had success, unlike in the NFL, the college teams that never had success don't have a fan base. They don't have a fan base to be tortured.
If it was anywhere else that had kind of fallen off the cliff like this, you're done.
I mean, I think you could have made an argument 5 years ago that Tennessee was the most tortured fan base, but I don't think they can do that anymore now that they've had a couple of 10-2 type seasons.
They've got their hire right, and they've won some big ball games.
Stopped handing out McDonald's bags.
Yeah, well, or they kept doing it, and now it's legal. Now they don't have to hide it. No, you just get the right hire, and you're okay.
I think 10 years ago, you'd have an argument for maybe Michigan being one of the more tortured fan bases. Early 2000s, it was probably Bama before they got
the Cowboys argument applies to the Michigan thing. There were 2 aggregate.
I think the Cowboys argument applies to the Michigans, the Nebraskas, the Miamis. Anyone that's been good and screwed up a good thing going, that's kind of your own fault.
But Miami doesn't have fans that show up to their games anymore. How tortured can your fan base be if you only have 30,000 people that show up?
They're in the middle of nowhere, that's why. They're just not in a prime location.
Maybe somebody can call in or leave a comment in the stream chat if they think I'm way off here, but I can't think of a college football team off the top of my head that is more tortured as of right now when you look at January 22nd, 2024 than Nebraska.
I think that's a fair take.
Yeah, I mean, Texas went to a playoff.
Texas is no longer tortured.
No.
They're back, apparently.
Oklahoma's fine.
USC is underachieving, but they still are good, right? And same with Miami. I mean, Miami's winning 7, 8, 9 ball games. Tim checks in. Perlman is gone. We are no longer being tortured.
Did you watch the past 10 seasons, Tim?
but those are still those are still some remnants.
21 one-score losses in the last 4 seasons. Come on.
That is. And we're talking creative ways to lose. Like you found ways to lose ball games in football that you've seen, and at least it's stopped in basketball. In PBA, it stopped. We'll have some more NFL thoughts. I'm going to take more of your torture takes when it comes to fan bases.
Thanks for clarifying.
489-1240.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, 489-1240. It's Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager. You hear us across the Hail Varsity Radio Network and chime in toll-free at 800-825-57 5865, some calls earlier and plenty of thoughts in the stream we'll get to on the tortured fan bases that exist. Buffalo, give your Bills fan a hug. And there's a lot of Chiefs fans out there that are smiling. They've been able to flip the switch. Reminder to get buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. I'm not ready to go there for football, despite what they've done in one-score losses the last 10 years. I am saying basketball, there's been too many good points made in the stream. Basketball has been tortured because they've had some moments. They've had more moments of frustration. Not recently. I mean, yes, recently with the Rutgers loss, but I think Fred's okay is what I'm saying.
Hopefully not tomorrow.
Right. You can't step on yourself against Ohio State. You found a way to survive Northwestern. Dion is emphatic. Yes, we are. Number one tortured fan base.
I think it's inarguable if you're under the age of 35.
Exactly. It's an age thing.
It's an age. If you've seen some national titles, that helps.
Mm-hmm. You've gone to a few.
For those of us under the age of 35 that have never seen Nebraska even sniff a national championship or a conference championship.
Or a bowl game.
For you, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you tell me this. I mean, you remember the Music City Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It got a little ugly, then it got close, and then Tennessee covered.
I mean, my first real memories of Nebraska football were the last 2 years of Callahan.
Okay.
That's when it started, being like
so Zach Taylor.
Actual memories. And I have some memories, what was that? The Alamo Bowl against Michigan.
Sure.
I remember, was that 2004?
It was 05 season.
05 season, yeah. I remember that pretty well, which was the second to last year of Callahan, I believe. I remember Texas Tech putting up like 70 on Nebraska.
Wow.
Watched that one at my aunt's house. Shout out to Aunt Sarah.
I asked the Pirate, like, what, why? Pirate's like, they didn't change their defense.
That's a good reason.
Can't fault them.
Yeah. If it's working, I mean.
Hell, Schmidt, they didn't change their defense. All right, Pirate, 70-10. How about you, though, Connor, as like a native Chicagoan? The Nebraska perception is not lovable losers, but, man, can't even get invited to the party.
No, I would say, well, from my experience, I could easily say it's a tortured fan base. I mean, again.
Did you ever feel that way about Northwestern?
No, because
they don't have fans.
Yeah, it's honestly, though, like what Elijah said earlier, when they're not playing good football, Ryan Field is empty. Same thing with basketball. Welsh Ryan Arena is empty when they're playing bad basketball.
And I can't feel bad for fans that don't show up to watch a bad team. Like the Denver Nuggets. I'm a big-time Denver Nuggets fan. Most Nuggets fans didn't feel bad for themselves whenever the Nuggets were bad because they didn't show up. There wasn't a fan base to speak of that was tortured. You can't be tortured if you're not paying attention to the games.
I agree. And, like, again, even this year, like, Ryan Field, from a Northwestern perspective, was pretty empty. Now, you could say, well, it's because it's Ryan Field. It's a dump, whatever. But, even with basketball, in the first couple of years of their new renovation to Welsh Ryan, those teams were not very good. They were, like, a couple of games below 500, and that place was empty. So I can't put that fan base on the tortured list because, as Elijah said, if you don't show up when you're losing, are you really getting tortured by the results?
I mean,
probably not.
The tree falls in the woods.
The top of the list in terms of tortured fans in college basketball, at least in the Big Ten's Indiana. Am I wrong there? Based on what they've been since Victor Oladipo, they've been pretty terrible ever since then.
They have been...
I wouldn't say they've been terrible since then, but they've been underachieving.
They're so much like Nebraska, their basketball and football comparisons. Let's hit some NFL. Are you guys good with the matchups? I didn't have a dog in the fight. I wanted to see great football. I did. I saw Bills. I saw Chiefs. Enjoyed the heck out of that ball game, and it flew by. I'm not upset Kansas City made it. I would have been good with Buffalo. I want to see a great AFC championship. I want to see a great Super Bowl. I think Detroit is so much fun. I love Campbell. His energy is great. And San Fran is good and as smart as they are and as talented as they are. they could screw around and lose.
Well,
because I think Shanahan's ego is a little too big.
Well, and
he's great.
I called the Packers to win that football game on Friday, and I almost nailed it because I talked about the rust versus rest aspect of it, and the 49ers looked like a rusty football team for about the first 50 minutes of that game.
Well, if Samuel's not healthy, it screws their team up.
Well, and if Brock Purdy has any sort of pressure in his face whatsoever, well, like the Packers are bringing 4 and making Brock Purdy very, very uncomfortable in that pocket, and he looked like a different quarterback.
And as much as it pains me to say it, on the other side with that matchup, Jared Goff is playing very good football right now. That entire Lions team is playing very good football right now. They could easily go into 49er territory and win that game, in my opinion.
I feel good for Goff.
I look at the teams that remain in the postseason, and usually to make it to the Super Bowl, you need to have solid quarterback play, solid defense, and a good rushing attack. That's usually the hallmarks. At least a quarterback that takes care of the football and plays
screams
well.
Kansas City, doesn't it?
To me, it screams Lions-Ravens. Those are the two teams. Like Lamar Jackson is playing like a true MVP right now. He had a fantastic. I know the stats might not look like it, but he had a fantastic day on Saturday.
I think that game's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait for it.
Jared Goff is playing well within himself, trusting his defense and trusting Jahmyr Gibbs really coming on strong late in the season. I look at those two teams as being like, they got the things that usually find you success late in the season. A solid running game, a quarterback that takes care of the football and does what's asked of him, and a defense that plays really well. That's those two teams to me.
Kansas City, though, got to warm up with the mobile quarterback treatment. Not that they're going to be.
Kansas City's defense is much improved.
That's true.
They got a run game, and they're not afraid to lean on it. And they even leaned on it in the red zone. They just had the wrong running back carrying the football with the fumble out of bounds. Here's Andy Reid afterwards, after last night's gutty road win in Buffalo.
Again, every time we play one of Sean's teams, it comes right down to the end. He's done a phenomenal job here, and a phenomenal job this year, like Coach of the Year level coaching. If we don't play them again, I'm good with that. I'm so proud of our guys.
Here is Josh Allen on the kicker protection program.
I wish it wouldn't have been put in that situation. You win as a team, you lose as a team. One play doesn't define a game. It doesn't define a season. I know people are going to be out there saying that. We got to be there for him because, again, we execute a couple plays prior, probably singing a different tune right now.
Yeah, why is Josh Allen going to the end zone on 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 9
from the
30-yard line?
Why
Homeboy's a gunslinger.
catching the ball?
I mean, he had
Diggs,
open checkdowns.
He did. Diggs is the guy that is. He's kind of turned the diva act on and off from time to time about getting the ball. They get him the ball early. He fumbles. A couple of drops. He needs to really have a great season next year. And I love watching him play, but make some plays, brother.
It's time for a Bills revamp. And if I'm the Bills, I'm looking squarely at Stephon Diggs offensively and Von Miller defensively. Two guys you're paying a lot of money to that aren't performing up to that expectation. I love Von Miller, but I think it's time for Von Miller to be done in Buffalo. I think it's time for Stephon Diggs to be done in Buffalo. And it's time to use that salary in other ways. It's time for a revamp in Buffalo because clearly what you're doing isn't working.
You just got to make a kick.
Oh, yeah, find a new kicker, too, while you're at it.
They may.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour. We're 10 minutes away from Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie. Blackshirt Hour continues on as Charlie McBride and then Jay Moore joins us. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, and reminder about Pro Volleyball is knocking on the door. The first ever Pro Volleyball Federation match coming up January 24th at CHI. Of course, the Atlanta Vibe come to town, and the Supernovas want you there. 7 p.m. first serve. Log on now, supernovas.com. Secure your season or single match tickets now. You're going to see world-class talent, and you're going to see players that have won at the highest levels. National champions, All-Americans, Olympians. Join the volleyball movement sweeping across the country and see your major league volleyball team, the Omaha Supernovas. Supernovas.com, 7 p.m. on the 24th at CHI.
It's Wednesday. And how about the Supernovas? Number 1 in the preseason poll. Number 1. So a lot of talent on that squad.
Yeah, they're incredible. They are loaded, they're talented, and they're going to get all sorts of support, and go check them out for sure. Well, Husker Hoops, Jawan Gary to Instagram Elijah Cotter, and that's a good sign. Game time decision. I'm glad Jawan is feeling better. Good dude, really good dude, necessary for that team. I think Sammy Hoiberg said it right when it comes to that business mentality in today's presser. And Nebraska survived, and you're gonna survive a team like Northwestern even at home. Good luck beating them on the road, and that's to most of the Big Ten. They're just super talented and pretty gritty, and they've got all sorts of shooters, and that's a really good home win for Nebraska. I don't think Nebraska fans take home wins for granted, although the teams elevated themselves at PBA this year.
And you mentioned the Instagram post. Connor alerted me to this. Jawan Gary, great Instagram handle. Juan Wit de Butter.
Yes.
Is his Instagram handle. Love that. But just a picture of him on the court with an emoji down below, reading in between the lines. Strikes me as a guy who wants to play with that Instagram post. Maybe that the team doesn't want him to try to take it slow. I think he wants to play, and I think he's just that kind of guy. With as much as he's been through in his basketball career, I don't think he wants to miss more time than he has to.
I'd be surprised if he did play. I'm sure he's itching to get back out there.
Too soon, isn't it?
But I would be surprised. And one more note on that Northwestern game, too. I think escape might be, I don't want to say the wrong adjective, but a soft. Northwestern was 5-1 in games decided by 5 or less. So you beat them.
They won ugly.
Yeah.
Maybe not escape, but they won ugly, and a win's a win. How important is
you're up
is
11?
Night,
you're up 11 a couple of times, and then you gotta hit a shot to finally put them down. Mm-hmm. Escape.
Yes.
Connor, what's the importance in your mind of tomorrow night?
I think it's pretty important because you go on the road on Saturday, and obviously you've not had success on the road, so take care of home court against an Ohio State team that will maybe make the tournament.
Yeah, they look like they should.
They're 10 above you in the net ranking too, which I know a lot of people hold a lot of weight in as well. So it's a good Ohio State team coming to town. So it's going to be a big game.
An Ohio State team, I believe, that has not won on the road yet this year.
They're 0-3.
Don't be there first. Connor will be down at PBA tomorrow night. We'll check in with him there. Brennan from the Black Hills, which is worse, tying the two tortured fan bases together, a fake punt on 4th and 5 at your own 35, or an onside kick in Ireland. Way on it.
Both arguably fireable.
Yes. Coach McBride's next.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
It's that time, a Monday with Charlie. Mr. Blackshirt is back. Charlie McBride, Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We say hi to the coach. Coach, are you buried in snow, or are things thawing out for you?
Up here, we get snow, and then it rains, it turns to ice, and then snows again, and so we got about 2 inches of ice underneath our snow. It's beautiful.
Do you know how? Let me ask. Do you know how to ice skate? And if so, do you just put them on to go to the store?
Yeah, the guys are out ice skating today. The kids like down the way. They actually come from California, and they come for a few weeks in the winter, and they shovel us up. They have a snow blower, and they get cleaned out the ice, and they go skating at night. They have a light. They have a good time.
Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, I want to start off with some basketball before we get into football, and had a chance to say hi to Danny Nee on Saturday, and I know you and Coach Nee connected from time to time, but it was a really cool moment for him and in his 93-94 team on Saturday to get honored. Did you get a chance to watch any of Nebraska on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I did, and I did. I haven't had a chance. I didn't have a chance, of course, to talk to Danny, but he was a great guy, and we were spoke, probably at least once a week on the phone or something, and but I got to know him pretty well when he was here. So it was nice to see him come back. It was kind I felt a little bit like it was kind of nice to see Frank come back. And
sure,
when Danny came back, I think it was, kind of was icing on the cake of that whole kind of regime that he had. And, he was a good man. And, he worked hard at the game. I know a lot of the guys that work for him, Gary Bargan that worked for him, really thought a lot of them too.
Coach, one of the things we talked about last week on the show and also on our Saturday morning show was that Danny Nee, one of the most admirable things from an outside perspective looking in on him was that he kind of embraced the role of being a basketball coach at a football school. He didn't hold any ill will about that, and he really worked with what he had in that sense. Do you have any memories of Danny Nee and his times, being the basketball coach, but still embracing being that coach at a football school?
Yeah, well, Danny lived out at Firethorn, out in that area out there, and he started playing a lot of golf. That's the one thing that I kind of hooked up with him a little bit, a couple of times, and was able to get to know him a little better when he first got out there. Because I had looked at the same place that he ended up buying, as it was, and he lived right there. Dr. Claire lived right down the street, and so all of those guys that live out there, Sundberg, he's passed now, Mr. Sundberg, that Craig played for us and was a quarterback and stuff like that. But Danny was very, was real close to football guys, and and usually a lot of times that doesn't happen. But with him, it was easy.
I think it would have been interesting. You said you looked at the same place he bought, and it got me thinking. A sitcom with Charlie McBride and Danny Nee living under the same roof probably would have made millions.
Yeah, could you guys have been roommates?
Well, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but I mean,
Coach, let me clarify. I'm saying, could you guys have shared a house like two buddies? Is what I mean.
Oh yeah. Oh, probably. We're both rotten, so either way it worked out pretty good.
That's what I meant, Coach. Charlie,
I don't know what you mean by that. Wait, that's
the loud screeching brakes to an interview.
Oh man,
Coach, let's switch to football. And
before we both get us in trouble.
Possibly, but we are overreacting to Dylan Raiola, but had a pretty good showing at the Polynesian Bowl on Friday night, and the All-Star team, Carter Nelson there, also Tamua, the offensive lineman for Nebraska, performed pretty well. But what are your thoughts with Dylan coming in as winter conditioning's ramped up and ready to go today?
Well, I think one of the things with winter conditioning is that I've never seen their program as far as agility work and footwork stuff and flexibility and stuff like that. I think those things are really important, because I know a lot of guys they just spend time talking about lifting weights and stuff like that, and there is a couple of things that I learned a long time ago, and one was from a kid named Mike Webster who played in the NFL for a long time, and we're very close. And Mike traveled around the world. He was so interested in weight training and tried to find a way to lift just for football, and he did that and came back and explained it to me how it worked, and it was pretty simple, but a lot of schools have different ways of doing things, and so it's that way. But we looked at Penn State one time when we played them, and I didn't see a belly hanging over a belt buckle there at all. I mean, and they were just they were good athletes, and so I think you need to develop these kids in different ways, and I think the flexibility and those things are really important. Brad brought the track coach over, and and taught some of those big kids how to run, and they had running drills and stuff like that. So there was a lot of things in there where we did some teaching, as well as had a program for flexibility and speed work and things like that.
Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Charlie, when you think about getting these kids acclimated and in with the team, is there any important steps to be taken in the next, say, 3 months before spring football to make sure that the freshmen feel comfortable and welcomed by the team? Is there anything you tell the upperclassmen? What does that process look like?
Well, that's a really important thing to have done, is to get the older guys involved, and that's primarily what we talked about it a lot during the year and stuff like that, and eating with them and going, don't just not know them, because you can't. You're going to be playing with some of them, and if you don't even really know them that well, it's kind of funny. Your team doesn't feel like, it's really some kind of brotherhood that you're trying to accomplish. So it's up to the older, older meaning sophomores, juniors, and seniors, to make it easy for these guys, especially these guys coming in on the portal, because it's it's really hard to play a game when you really don't know, some of the guys that you're playing with. And so that's an important thing. But the coaches have to stay in contact with the players. And a lot of times they kind of lean on the guys that recruited them at first. I think, there's a whole list of things that you need to do as time goes on. You need to find out, I know you guys were talking the other day about what turns you on and what doesn't. Well, each kid is as different as his face, and they learn differently. And so you got to find that out. And they can take, orders and things like that differently. Some guys you can holler at and get after them, and that motivates them. And some guys, they don't like to have somebody yelling at you. And so you have to know those things, and that's why with freshmen, I always started them out hard and found out what, you can find out pretty quick, where they are. And as far as their feelings, a lot of times they've had coaches that are on them all the time. And, and then you come here and, you either get somebody that's on you all the time or somebody that's not. And if, they don't know how you can react to it, and you never find out what turns them on or off.
Coach Charlie McBride is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. And, Coach, you briefly mentioned it in that previous answer about how the sophomores, juniors, and seniors, a part of their job is to take the freshmen under the wing. And a lot of people say that good teams are coach-owned and great teams are player-owned. What kind of a role does the upperclassmen taking the freshmen under their wing play into that, and how much does that really affect the team moving forward?
It affects the team a lot. The leadership part comes out there, and the younger guys see who the leaders are, and if they walk around deciding who leads this team, and they're confused, and it can confuse them a little bit because they've gone through high school and they've been leaders, and a lot of them are, hold back because seniors are, a lot of times kids are different, and a lot of times kids resent the fact that if you're trying to lead and you're really a young guy and you really don't know everybody, and it kind of rubs some guys the wrong way. And where younger guys are just trying to do their best to, make the program go and get guys to follow them and do work. But the seniors are the guys that mainly are the ones and juniors and I think it all happens off the field too. In the chow hall, in the dorm, stuff like that. And the coaches are always, involved in stuff off the field too. They'll have some get-togethers, but I think, going in the locker room, sometimes we used to go in where the freshmen were a lot, and sit down and talk to them and meet some of the guys we didn't know. You know, because, I mean, we have to be the same thing. We have to do the same thing because maybe you shook hands with them or something like that, you know, or, you know, you can usually break it up pretty good by saying, you know, I remember you were 22. I remember seeing you on film, and I remember doing this and, you know, and talking to them about their past a little bit and then breaking with them that way. But, you know, so we spent some time with the kids both ways, whether they're on offense or defense or anything, because, I mean, I was close to some of the offensive guys, and of course we worked together a lot. Offense and defense lines worked together, so I knew a lot of those offensive guys pretty good. And you know, and those are the kind of things that happen. I think when kids feel comfortable and feel like they're wanted, you're going to have a football team.
Charlie McBride's with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio Monday with Charlie and Blackshirt Monday. Coach, we'll get you out on this, and it's fun to talk with you every Monday. We really appreciate it. Wanted to get your thought on the Chiefs and Bills game. Did you catch a lot of NFL this weekend?
Yeah, that thing were cold. Oh, they make me cold looking at them playing, but I'll tell you what, there was some guys doing a little extra, you know, and I mean, You can tell when they really want to win, you know, sometimes there's a little extra on the end of the tackles, and there's some, you know, a little extra pushing the guy off the field, and, you know, that kind of stuff. And but I was happy for the Chiefs. I mean, you know, living in Lincoln, we had a lot of Chief fans there, and so I was kind of pulling for them. And but you know, when you're in Michigan, you just kind of keep your mouth shut and go your way. Go on your way because you find all kinds of them here.
Well, Detroit's a great story, and they've got a tall task against San Francisco, but should be a pretty good ball game.
Well, they're excited about that here. I mean, they really are. It hasn't been for 50 years, 40-some years since they were in this position at all, and so it's pretty exciting for the people here having somebody, you know, in football do it like that, like they're playing now.
Well, I mean, the last time the Lions won a championship,
57.
I say Charlie was still playing.
He was a freshman.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, they got some no-names that are good football players, and that's where they came from. And that kid from Michigan and is doing a heck of a job, and I think he's in his second year now, and I think he leads his team in sacks and everything, and he's really doing well. He's a motor guy, and he's going a million miles an hour all the time, and he's fun to watch.
Yep. Hutchinson's been great, and Jack Campbell at linebackers, kind of a throwback player.
That's what I mean. They know how to win.
Yeah, they do. They do a great job. Coach, you stay warm and get out on that ice and go score a goal, okay?
I'll stay warm, that's for sure. I'm gonna hide out. Is what I'm gonna do.
I think Charlie's more of an enforcer.
Have to hide out, or they get sick and die.
Yeah, well, it is cold. You stay warm, and we'll holler at you again next Monday. You take care. Thanks again.
Okay, thanks, guys. Talk to you later. Bye now.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. A Monday with Charlie, and he and Danny, they had a good time, man. They were. And, you know, Danny did a hell of a job recruiting Chicago when he was at Nebraska. And that's Charlie's town, of course, is Chicago. So loved hearing a little bit about Danny and some NFL. And, yep, your team building right now, that chemistry is ultra key for year two of Coach Rule and company. He's done a good job of pouring that cement. We'll hear from Jay Moore. Second part of the Blackshirt Hour continues. It's Hail Varsity, and we're powered by Cornhead Lager.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Who's Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole
Clark. We say hi to Blackshirt Husker NFLer, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Jay Moore with us at JMoore44. And Bird, just because it's so warm outside, I didn't think you'd be wearing sleeves today, man.
Talk about a heat wave. Man, I went outside. I took Mab to school this morning at 7:30. I'm like, I had my workout gear on still, and I'm like, geesh, you can wear shorts. It feels fantastic. It's 30 degrees at 7:30. It was amazing.
It did, comparatively speaking, but hey, it was all sorts of cold, and there was human sacrifice. There was tables burned and destroyed, and we'll get right into the NFL before we talk some Huskers. Still not enough for the Bills. We talked a little bit in hour one about tortured fan bases, and you feel for them. That said, I thought Kansas City was fantastic with their run game.
Yeah, I didn't really know what, I think people tried to make a lot out of, that Patrick Mahomes has never played a playoff game away from Arrowhead Stadium. And I was like, there might be something to that. And talking about the weather, I'm like, well, they just won a football game and, negative 20 degrees the week before, so I'm not worried too much on that. They were just, the last time they played just a few weeks ago, they didn't have Pacheco. So, I think that helped them out immensely in this game. And, their ability to run the football, early on, Buffalo's ability to run the football, but that Steve Spagnuolo defense was able to kind of make some tweaks in the second half and especially later in the third quarter, earlier in the fourth, kind of bring an extra guy down in the box to make some plays in that run game that really, honestly, made the difference late. But what a fantastic game. Every time these two teams get together, it is back and forth. You just don't know what to expect. You feel like whoever has the ball last is going to win. And unfortunately, another wide right field goal for the Bills in this one.
Yeah, Jane, you talk about the wide right field goal. So many times in their history have they come up just short, but particularly over the past couple of seasons with Josh Allen at the helm, they keep on falling just short, and it's usually the Chiefs doing it to them. With Josh Allen's bigger contract kicking in here next season, is it time for the Bills to blow it up and start afresh and try again, or do you think that them being this close is evidence that what they have going right now is working?
I don't know if it's blow it up. I think they have, unfortunately, they were beat up on defense coming to this game. I know that hurt them a little bit. I think they only dressed, 4 total linebackers in this game. That's hard to do. That's so hard that your guys are, your linebackers are playing a lot of special teams, and it's tough to. I know NFL, they didn't play a total amount of snaps. I only think Kansas City got over 50 total snaps offensively. But it's just hard. It's this time of the season. Your body's so beat up. You need some fresh guys to kind of spell each other. So I think that was a little bit of an issue. I think it honestly in pass, I think looking at, I know they got beat by the Bengals last year in the same round in Buffalo, but I think they were pretty beat up at that time as well. I think it's just the timing of it. Injuries are going to happen. I don't think you need to overreact whatsoever. I think Josh Allen is a hell of a quarterback. I think he has some fantastic weapons around him. I think the tight ends that he has there are really, really good. I think Diggs is really, really good. You probably could always protect him more. You could look maybe at revamping your O-line potentially if you want to. But overall, I wouldn't blow it up, man. I know they struggled early on this year, and I think they got rid of Ken Dorsey halfway through the season and changed some things up offensively. They're going to get there. I do. I think they're going to have their year coming. Guys are going to stay healthy. They're just going to get the bounce the ball. But I tell you what, just being in that league, just the little amount of time that I had spent there, it's so hard to win. And I know you want to make it deep into the playoffs, and the talent is there, and you want to make a Super Bowl, obviously. But sometimes they need a little perspective. It's like, gosh dang, you know what? We're close. They're very, very close. And I'd hate for them to, blow it up and have to start over and go through the rebuilding phases and all that stuff to maybe take a few steps back to hopefully gain a couple more forward. I don't know. I think what they got going right now is pretty darn good.
And I guess I should clarify with what I mean by blow it up. I look back to the Broncos after they got humiliated by the Seahawks. What do? They completely revamp their roster, become a defensive football team. They trade away a lot of their offensive weapons. They invest in some draft capital. They get a couple free agents on the defensive side of the ball, and they revamp. I guess I'm not saying completely blow it up, but I'm wondering if this is going to be an offseason where the Bills try to change up their own identity and try to win in a different way with Josh Allen.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'm glad you clarified. And you look at defensively, Von Miller. I know they're probably paying him a lot of money. He's getting older?
Their whole D's old.
What's that?
So they're all of their defense is old. We're talking early to like low 30s.
Yeah, and
no one likes an old D.
Yeah, you gotta be young. Gosh, I can't think of the other defensive lineman that was a really good player that came.
Glenville Joseph is 35, 36.
Yeah, but you just probably might have to take a look. There's some good talent coming up in the draft, and I don't know where they're slated at currently. If they have some other picks that they maybe have traded into, but just an interesting situation. It's just a fun situation for us as fans, just because with the AFC and you've had Mahomes and Allen, you have Lawrence in Jacksonville, Herbert going to be getting a new head coach here with the Chargers. Who knows with those kind of four guys there and how it's just probably between those four teams. It seems like it has been the last 3-4 years, and I know this is the 6th straight year that the Chiefs has made the AFC Championship game. So. They're probably, don't get me wrong, they're going to be looking to, you got to change that. You can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. I truly understand that. But I wouldn't go too crazy, right? Just don't need to revamp too much. You're close. You just got to stay a little healthier and get a couple bounces. You guys just got to catch a ball. I mean, Allen put some balls on guys late in the game. They just dropped. I know they're tough catches, but he put them right there. They just got to kind of make a play when you need to make a play.
Jay Moore with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Over to the NFC, Packers and 49ers, you could make the argument that a lot of people think the Packers should have won that game just based off the way that Jordan Love played throughout pretty much 59 of the 60 minutes, and the fact that Brock Purdy didn't look that good as well. So what are your takeaways from that game, and do you have any concerns about the 49ers going forward?
A little bit. I was kind of expecting that game. I think it's hard. I mean, the Ravens proved this, philosophy wrong. I think the teams that get to play in the wild card weekend almost have a leg up sometimes against the teams that get to buy in the divisional round. I kind of liken it to the NCAA tournament. You see a lot of those upsets from teams who play a play-in game, like a 12 seed or 11 seed that goes and plays that 6 seed, and you see those upsets quite often because they just got to knock the rust off. It's just you got to play some real ball when it matters, and you can just kind of get a little bit of an advantage. And I think I was fully expecting that with the Green Bay game, because what they did against Dallas I did not expect. But I didn't expect San Francisco to come out that flat. They didn't play good, and they were frank just flat out lucky. I mean, early in that first quarter, Purdy should have thrown a pick. It hit him, the dude, right in the numbers. He dropped it. I'm pretty sure they dropped another pick late in the game as well, in the end, close to the end zone. It really just came down to, last week the Packers were able to capitalize in the red zone against the Cowboys. They got touchdowns. They were able to do that against the 49ers. A lot of field goals. Now San Francisco's defense is really, really good, if not better than the Cowboys, for the majority of the year. But the biggest thing this comes down to is Jordan Love's 2 interceptions. That's separated that game right there. The 49ers snuck away with it. They are counting their blessings because they should got beat. They did not. Purdy did not play good. They found some things with McCaffrey and Kittle got good, but without Deebo Samuel, that the offense has struggled at times early in the year, in middle of the year where Deebo was hurt. You have one less guy to focus on. So going forward, I'm not sure. I haven't heard what Deebo's injury status is going into the NFC Championship game, but if he's not healthy, man, it's going to be an interesting matchup between them and the Lions.
Jay Moore is with us, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Hail Varsity Radio. And let's kind of go to the conference championships. Who do you like here? Do you go in Baltimore and Lamar, or does KC keep the Mo going? Also, Detroit's a great story. They're fun. People love Coach Campbell. San Francisco, if they, try and just go with what's working. Sometimes Shanahan seems to want to do it his way versus, I don't know, you can hand the ball off to 25 to 30 times to McCaffrey, and that's okay too. He doesn't always do that, but there's that option. So when we look at these conference title games, where you leaning and who do you like?
I like the home teams, the same two teams that we discussed, months prior. I just thought, the 49ers and the Ravens were the best two teams in the league. I know they just played a few weeks, around Christmas time, and the Ravens got the best of that one. And I know the 49ers threw 5 interceptions or 5 turnovers in that game. I just think the Ravens, that defense is really, really good. Lamar Jackson, MVP type season, his ability to throw and run it, and his ability to lead and kind of take a game over, it's special. I think the Chiefs, though, are a very underrated defense, not allowing any points, no games over 30 points so far this season. I did not realize that. Just hearing it in the game against the Bills. I mean, Spagnuolo is a really, really good coach. I was with the Rams when he was the head coach. Really, really smart, and has done a really good job with that defense. So that's going to be a fantastic matchup. It's just kind of pick your poison in that one, because you get a dual threat quarterback. It's just another task that you have to worry about. Same with Josh Allen, right? I mean, his ability to run the football and utilize that, especially in the red zone, it's 11 on 11 football instead of 10 on 11 in the traditional sense. But I still like the Ravens in this one. I think they got it going. They're hot. They went and tied at half against the Texans, and then allowed them to score. I mean, the defense didn't even give up a touchdown. The only touchdown they gave was a punt return. So that defense is playing fantastic. NFC wise, I love the Lions story. It's been fun. Huge Dan Campbell fan. I just think I think unfortunately that's going to come to an end. I think the 49ers got a little bit of a wake-up call, and it's like, hey, we can't keep slipping up. I think the 49ers can get this one done. I think it's going to be a grind, though. I think it's going to be a close battle. I think both games are going to be really, really good. I would not expect any team to just completely run away with either game. So I think we're going to see 49ers-Ravens like we all kind of predicted and discussed in Vegas in a few weeks.
Jay Moore is with us, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Hail Varsity Radio. Well, my question is, if Jay Moore was working security at Buffalo and you were called to a suite with a 300-pound center shirtless, would you tell that man to put his shirt back on?
Absolutely not. Own it, baby.
The business decision.
He owned it.
He did.
It was great. I loved it. It's fun. I mean, enjoy it. He's, watching his brother play. He's probably going to retire. He's had a hell of a career. His beer of choice in Bud Light was questionable, but that might have been the only thing in the suite. I can think of about 17 other things I'd want to drink besides a Bud Light. But
if only they had Cornhead Lager in that suite.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So shout out title sponsor.
No, it's fun. I mean, come on. It's a circus up there, anyways, between Taylor Swift and then Mahomes' wife, and you got Jason Kelce up there with a stocking cap and his hairy belly just out there. It was great. It's awesome. I mean, I know the Bills fans couldn't be too upset because he kind of embraced their culture too.
Well, he took a giant shot of whatever the hell concoction they had in the old jug.
I saw that.
Tailgating.
I saw that.
So he immersed himself in Bills Mafia culture pregame.
See, it's funny. All you have to do to earn the respect of Bills Mafia is to drink irresponsibly.
Yeah.
Put out a fire. Jump on a few tables and break them. Start on, maybe catch yourself on fire real quick.
Jump in a pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, thoughts on Coach Rule and winter conditioning underway? Nebraska has roster options, and of course they've got big dog Dylan Raiola enrolled, and things are going here. But it's season 2 already for Nebraska and Coach Rule.
Yeah, pretty important time. One of the most important times of the season. This is where you kind of get bigger, faster, stronger. You You really are implementing mental toughness, leadership, a lot of things going on that get you ready, that takes you into spring ball, that takes you into fall camp, then takes you into the season. So this is where that foundation is laid right now in 2024. And once that's built, then you can kind of start fine tuning it. You can start adding a little bit of the finer details into the plan. But this is important. It's time to get all the transfers in, get them up to speed, get the young freshmen that are coming in, get them up to speed, and really solidify what you built last year, and then take that and then add to that, right? You just got to start stacking it. They did a lot of good things last year. Obviously, how the season finished, those last 4 games, wasn't great, but I still think what they're able to do in certain situations and just with the mindset and mental toughness, you got to take that over and transfer it into 2024, and that's the time it happens right now. So I know you look outside and the weather isn't great. It's a time where you got to kind of embrace like we said, embrace the suck and get better. And the only easy day was yesterday type of mentality, and you just got to go get after it, and you earn everything you get. Work your tail off, then they should be hungry. They should be really, really hungry, because this team hasn't gotten near to anything where they should be. And I know they got close last year to getting over the hump and getting that bowl game monkey off their back, and that's really close. This team and with Rule's kind of track record, year 1 struggles, year 2 makes that significant jump. Can this team make that significant jump and embrace that and get it done?
It's Jay Moore with us here at Hail Varsity Radio. And Jay, let's go to Friday night's Polynesian Bowl. The question is simple here. Does it matter? Does what we saw matter? I tried to throw some cold water on this on Friday. Like, you know what? Look at the natural talent, the raw ability. Don't look at some of the quarterbacking things that can be difficult, similar to an NFL combine. When you don't have the time to work with your wide receivers, or you're not going to be watching film all week long, it kind of means you have to take it with a grain of salt. Is that your take on Friday night's Polynesian Bowl with Dylan Raioula's performance? It's not really about stats or anything like that. It's about raw ability, and the kid can go out there and have some fun. Totally.
I mean, it's not even a grain of salt. It's like a whole vial. Whatever. I'll be frank. Like I saw highlights. I did not watch one snap of the game. I just saw the highlights from social media. So much is put on these kids, young kids. I get it. Dylan Raioula, I understand his ability and the pressures and all those things. He's still 18 years old, and a lot changes when he steps on campus. And I know he's probably going to be day 1 starter when he steps when he gets on campus here, probably now, and that's fine. That's okay. I'm not going to overreact to how a kid who just got out of high school performs in an all-star game, or even performs in a first year. Or maybe even performs in a spring game. Because we'll be talking about that when that happens too. So it's fun. It's something to talk about. It's something to watch and look at. And if you want to go deep in the weeds and diagnose everything and go for it, go all for it. I'm sure there's people have done it. I just don't. I have energy to be put somewhere else to besides. You get together some kids together for a few days at practice and you go play a game, and ideally they're probably looking forward to a free trip to Hawaii more than the game itself, right? So I'm glad everyone came out healthy, first and foremost. We saw some good things, and that's awesome. But now it's time to get to real work and develop and really live up to your hype. That's the biggest thing for Dylan is step on campus, man. You people know this Raioula name, and it's littered all over the stadium. But it's time to, validate, right? And it's not going to be easy. All eyes are going to be on him. The pressure's on him. And being under pressure is a privilege. And I think he's going to welcome that privilege and embrace it and try to get better every day.
Jay, about a minute here. How does Dylan Raioula kind of separate himself from the distractions when he gets to campus and kind of going through a new stage of his life? Because I know he's kind of grown up in the spotlight, at least in the last couple of years, but how does he kind of block that out when he gets here?
Man, he's got to do the necessary things and go above and beyond. be the first one there. He should be the first one in the locker room. He should be the last one to leave. First one in meetings, last one to leave. Don't act, like you're entitled to anything, because you're not. I don't care who your dad was. I don't care how much NIL money you're getting or who your uncle is. It shouldn't matter. And I know he's been brought up that way as well. But first one in, first one out. You're going to have to embrace them. I'm sure he has to do some things that freshmen have to do, and that's good. Embrace it. But fully commit yourself to this situation, because it's a fantastic situation to be a legacy, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see him involved and get better and become what we think he can become, right? Which is a damn good quarterback, and hopefully lead this program to where it once was, and where it does belong, and kind of get us out of the dumps. And that's a lot of pressure, but that's okay. Like I said, pressure's a privilege. If he was a 3-star recruit, wouldn't have been there, but he's a 5-star, one of the top rated recruits in the nation. Hey, all eyes are on you, bud. And let's take it for what it's worth, but you got to kind of seize the day and capitalize.
Jay Moore. Bird, take care. We'll check in next week.
Yep, sounds good, boys. See ya.
Good to spend a few minutes with Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Get the podcast, as always. Subscribe. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio, or the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. We'll wind down on Monday next.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence, and at C_Clark_27. That's where you can follow Connor. Find the show, follow the show at H Varsity Radio on X, and then KFOR Sports on Twitter, KFOR Facebook, and wherever you hear us across the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Lastly, subscribe and put a thumbs up if you so choose or feel with the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. So lots of great comments, lots of incredible insight, and just quite frankly, pain and, conviction about the fan bases you're supporting, Nebraska for sure, but also some of the pro teams you choose, and tortured fan bases was a good topic to go with today. We didn't spend hardly any time on this, and it was kind of put to bed because she took the high road with it, but Caitlin Clark with Iowa yesterday.
Flop.
Well, that's just it. I mean, there's a ton of folks on social media saying flop. There was surprise. You had a female fan rush out, filming on her phone. You had a collision. And then she spun and fell, and then she was helped up, and she was fine, which is good. But the thing about fan bases rushing the court, she got it. She totally got it in the postgame. That's where we're at as a basketball program. If we get beat, that's what we should expect.
Yeah, and that's a really compliment.
Good take.
It's a compliment to you. What I will say is I think the contact was real. I think Caitlin Clark being knocked to the floor was real. I'm not sure about the ensuing 10 to 15 seconds of her laying on the floor. I think there is an element of when you get knocked down, it's embarrassing how much of that was pride being hurt whenever you're sitting on the floor after losing on the road.
She took a little bit of time to gather herself. She's on the road, and probably a freaked out moment.
Exactly. Embellishment at the end of it, potentially, but at the end of the day, she's all right, the fan's all right. That's what's really important. Let's move on.
I really don't think, I agree. Just move on. The only thing I would say, like, quote-unquote, negatively about what Caitlin did was, like, maybe, like, I understand you want to get off the floor, you just lost, they're storming the court.
Left your team.
Maybe don't run because everybody else is running out of the court. Just like, and again, I'm not saying like it's her fault that she ran off the court and ran into somebody. I'm just saying like both of them obviously didn't see each other. They're both running. They both hit each other. It's gonna happen. But it's glad everybody's all right, and it would have been pretty, I think, detrimental if she actually suffered a pretty serious injury. So glad she's okay.
See, Matt Pater went off on this post-Purdue almost 3 weeks ago. And it's one thing if the students do it. And how vicious, I'm going to ask you to generalize. Elijah and Connor, one being out of college, one almost out of college, but still close enough to it. Like, did you want to go party with the players, or did you want to go give hell to the team you didn't like that just got beat when you rushed the court?
You want to go party with your fans. I don't even think it's about the team. It's about partying with the fans.
So you're not going to get in the face of an opposing player.
No. Would you?
No.
And I don't think that's either of your personalities, but it does happen.
I mean, it's like Tennessee.
And you've seen guys get knocked the bleep out on the road.
You go party with your players.
Yeah.
That's how it should work.
Yep, that's a good take. All right, back at you tomorrow at 4 with Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.